at such a young age, you founded the group Spotlight. Now, how does personal training like that offered by Spotlight contribute to the development of young basketball players?
Yeah, man, I think it's huge, honestly, when it comes down to, developing not even young athletes, but young men, young women, right? Getting them into the position where they learn how to push themselves. They have great role models when they come into the gym, and, just figuring out how to work hard, work towards a goal, right? And how we can kind of help guide them towards where they want to be too, right? And a lot of what we do with Spotlight is, kind of one of our mottos is for athletes by athletes. So we really like to have our coaches be, either current players who are playing post-secondary or, like me, players who are from that post-secondary athletic background, right? So we know a little bit of what it takes to get there. And so we can really help guide the minds and the athletic dreams of these young athletes, 100%.
It's very ambitious of you at such a young age. You founded this group at when? How long ago?
So 2 years ago, I was 20. I was 20 years old. Yeah, it all just kind of fell together, honestly. If we go back to the beginning of Spotlight, because I spent 2 years playing at Concordia University basketball there. Didn't play a whole lot because it was COVID year, and then I ended up hurting myself. Busted my shoulder, couldn't play anymore. Yeah, so I kind of, I left basketball for a while, and I was like, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, basketball's in the past.
Probably steered you to finding that, because if that didn't happen, then you wouldn't have found this.
Oh, 100%.
Time.
100%, right? It's all about, moving on to the next thing. And I kind of fell into it because, one of my old assistant coaches from Concordia, who's a big basketball guy in Sherwood Park, his name's Steve, he asked me to come and help, like, assistant coach one of his spring teams that he was running. And then, so this was like right after COVID. So I kind of noticed these kids are 15, 16, they haven't learned already all of the stuff that I kind of had already learned at that age, you know what? Because they missed that 2 big years of development.
Yeah, dude, COVID.
Through COVID.
Massive.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, I'm noticing this, you guys need this, this, and this. I'm going to book a gym time. And if any of you guys want to come out, we're going to work on these specific things. This is what it's going to cost, and we're just going to go at cost, and we're just going to roll with it. And so I ended up having, 7, 8 really good young athletes come out. We had a lot of fun very first time around. And then, I had one of my buddies who owns a camera. He's not quite a photographer yet, but he's good with the camera. Yeah. Right? He came out, took some photos, threw them on a website. I put the website together, and then it kind of rolled from there. 100%.
So you guys started off just with what you've got, and you gathered all these things, and you worked with the skills and presented in front of you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it was just straight up, like I had built a relationship with these kids. One of them is the younger brother of one of my best friends, so I kind of built up my reputation with them a little bit. They started to believe that I knew what I was talking about a little bit, and then we got in the gym together, and they all loved it. They all got way better. They're all great kids, and yeah, 2 years later, here we are.
Because at the start, when you're just starting, you don't have any credibility. And so when these kids are looking at your resume per se, they're seeing, oh, what has this guy done? What's this guy all about? So they don't really know.
Exactly.
So when they're taking a big risk, and it paid off.
Yeah, right? The parents too, right? The parents have no idea who we are. And to even invest in what we do at Spotlight, right? That takes some risk. It takes a bit of a leap of faith.
It takes a lot of courage, man, because when you present yourself out there, when you're doing your own thing, there's a lot of room for judgment, and the possibility of failure is very imminent. It's there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people start businesses, whether it be about coaching, whether it be about groups, or just if they like to make a product about clothing, or there's a big risk of failure. And you were never scared of that, though?
Well, basketball has always been my passion. It's something that I always knew I was really, I was knowledgeable about. Like, I wasn't always the most athletic guy. I wasn't always, the best player from the get-go. But I was always, my IQ was always up there, right? So I always knew that I could see certain things that maybe certain coaches didn't see. And so I could find my niche within basketball and working on more specific individual skills, reading defenses, different downhill moves that'll get you open every time, that sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. In what ways does Spotlight tailor its training programs to address the specific needs and goals of the individual athletes?
Well, what we really believe with Spotlight is to keep our groups really small. So, 8 to 15 kids at all times, and then we can really drill in and ask the kids, okay, what is your specific goal? What do you need to work on the most to get there? And how can we as coaches, work with you to get you there? So it really comes down to that, just spending enough time with each one of these kids on the court and off the court. It doesn't just end in the gym with us for basketball, right? And coaching. Like we make our best effort to go to games, reach out to these players, say, hey, we worked on this when you were at camp last year, let's take that into mind next time you're in practice, because I see that you're missing this aspect of your game a little bit from what I saw when you played against X team, right? So just going that kind of extra mile, really being that big brother mentor is kind of what we've always tried to do.
I've noticed that in every sport, I've had a lot of people come here who play volleyball. Actually, that's the most common sport that's been on here. And then this girl, she played soccer. She was a captain when she was playing in high school.
Okay.
And it seems that every single time for sports, it's not just the sport, right? It goes beyond. Because when you
100%.
when you help these kids, you're watching for their form. You're watching for the way they dribble. And their opens, and you're trying to cover for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's more than just that. That's why you guys keep it 8 to 15 players?
Yeah, 8 to 15, maybe a little bit more when we're younger, because it's easier to teach, younger kids basic skills at a larger scale. But when we get older, like when we're in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, that's when we keep it smaller, make sure that we have enough time for every single athlete, right?
Because everybody's got problems. And when these kids come in there and they're not playing as good when normally they play well, there's got to be something going on. Right? Yeah. And so you make sure that they're to approach it with a holistic approach.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what Spotlight's been doing?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. A lot of what we do, from an actual drill standpoint and, like game plan, I'd say, kind of standpoint for practice plans is, we work on a specific move at the beginning of practice, we drill it down, we get it down, and then we'll play a game out of it. So it's really like, maybe one day we have a lot of post guys, big guys who play down in low block a little bit. We get everybody, no matter how big, how small they are, working on a specific, post move drill, and then we'll just compete out of it and see how it goes. We'll match up based on size still, but we can really drill in and work on specific drills that maybe don't apply to everybody, but it's still really, really good to teach them how they can work on specific drills, right? Because at the end of the day, when we're with an athlete for 7 weeks, there's only so far we can get. We can get better 100%. But the goal really is to teach them how to work out on their own, how to get better on their own.
Sustainability.
100%.
Because sure, you can teach them how to do certain moves, but if they don't put in the work after the program, they're gonna fall off.
Oh, 100%.
You need to instill something in them that's more than just the sport, like something that'll catapult them to years of discipline and hard work and effort, right? Because at the end of the day, you can be the most talented player, but if you don't put in the work, if you don't go to the gym, if you don't practice your dribbling, your shooting, you're not going to amount to anything.
Yeah, 100%. And other people who are doing those things, dribbling, working out on their own, they're going to catch you eventually.
Yeah.
Right? I even saw that from me. I was a really good player, like younger. I was good. I was super, super good in like 7th and 8th grade. I was the man, right? And then I kind of let my foot off the gas. And I'm like, man, I got this.
Yeah, I'm too good. Nobody's going to catch up.
Right? Yeah. And then, high school came, university came, and I'm like, man, I'm getting my ass kicked. I need to step it up a little bit.
Bro, that reminds me. I was very smart in elementary. I always got pretty good grades. I had this one friend who was always trying to compete with me, and he never caught up.
Yeah.
Up until, I just slacked off. And next thing you know, he was getting better grades. But this was a guy that was consistent, persistent.
Yeah.
And now he's a full-time engineer. He's making so much money.
Yeah.
And he's the most ahead person, and he wasn't the smartest, but he was the most dedicated.
He had that
He was
drive.
he had that dog in him, man.
Oh, yeah,
He had that dog in him. When everybody else was partying, bro. When I was fucking out there wasting my... Okay, I wasn't wasting my life, but when I should have been studying, I should have been putting in the work.
Yeah.
He was out there at home grinding. And
oh, yeah. There's so many stories like that, man.
10 times out of 10, hard work beats talent. Like
definitely.
Yeah. And if it's not, it'll catch up. If it's not true right now, later on, 10 years, in a decade, it's gonna happen.
They'll be there.
100%. I've noticed that with people that just won't give up, man. I'm like, stay down there, bro. Stay down. Let me catch up. Yeah. But
no, you're right, man. It's 100% right.
What role does technology play in enhancing the training experience at Spotlight?
Oh, that's a great question. So Spotlight, we don't do a whole lot with technology, right? We kind of keep it really focused on the individual. We've tried a couple different things where we've tried, weighted basketballs. We've tried different, different kind of videoing techniques and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, the thing that we've noticed that works the best isn't really any of that gimmicky stuff. It's really just making sure the athlete is doing perfect reps every time and pushing themselves to get better. Because anybody can go through the motions, right? But when we're in the gym for an hour and a half, and we only get 20 minutes worth of actual work, we're wasting our time. We got to make sure we're going that whole time, right? Doesn't really the gimmicks don't matter when it comes to that type of training. Yeah.
Well, there are like apps where it tracks your biometrics.
Oh yeah.
The time. You guys don't implement any of that?
No, not right now. We kind of keep it, back down to earth. Back to the basics. Really, just getting that work.
I feel like when it gets too complicated, you got these kids that come up there and even for working out, and I see guys that are just starting out and they've got like 10 supplements and they've got this app that tracks everything and you got their little worksheet. And then they're not consistent, right? It makes it so hard, and you have all these things because right now you guys are still at the advance of the company, or would it be called a company or a group?
Call it,
yeah.
Okay, sure.
It's still new, right? So implementing these things would just make it too difficult for the players. So keeping it simple would definitely be the best way to go. Hey.
Yeah, keeping it simple for sure, and then building our reputation from there, because we don't want to throw anything into what we do and have it tested out on a group that we're working with, right? If there was some kind of technology that we'd want to use in the future, or it comes to like biometric tracking, like you were saying, that would be something that we test out on our own and figure it out, and then see if there's actually room for it in the type of training that we offer. But there is definitely room for technology, like what I'm doing with Shoot 360. That's all technology, right? We can go into that later, and that's not a gimmick. That's much different. But maybe. So my answer at the end of the day, maybe one day, but not right now.
Still at the
Keep
start.
it simple. Yeah.
How does Spotlight prioritize mental conditioning and skill developments in training methodologies?
Sorry, man. It's not a coffee break. That's a great question too. So when it comes to mental preparation, kind of mental, development for these young kids, it's part of what I said with connecting with them, making sure that they know that we're there for them and they have good mentors that aren't just here to, train them for an hour and then they're done. We always let every single person who comes through Spotlight, let them know that they're part of the Spotlight family and they can reach out to us with absolutely anything, call, text. We see so many of them at Millennium Place, like playing, still go up, hey man, how are you doing?
Yeah.
I saw you were doing this, and, just keeping up with them, right? And then, there's been times, not so much with Spotlight, but with, like, in terms of training, but when we kind of get into games, because I was running spring teams last year too, where a lot of kids they look up to people in the NBA right now. It's hard not to, right? When you grow up, you're a basketball player, you love watching the NBA. But there's definitely negative aspects of professional sports when it comes to attitude and how they kind of portray themselves, right? And some
Is it realistic though?
Is it realistic?
Yeah, right? You're looking at these basketball players. They're like 6'8", 6'9". And what, it's like
making millions of dollars, right? They can afford to do whatever they want. right? But when it comes down to it, we still need to be respectful. We need to be, you know, a good sportsman.
Yeah.
We need to play the game right. And then, you know, the rest will all fall into place. Get our grades up too. That's a big one for the kids.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I like that holistic approach, man, where it's not just about the sport. And when the kids go there, it's like a family.
Mhm.
They go there and they do not expect to just get, sure, the physical side of things to improve. That's kind of the main,
Yeah.
main thing.
That's the main goal. That's what gets
all
us
about.
together, right?
But it's more than that, right? It's like the problems you share, the grades, like how do you balance studying? How do you go about the world in a positive light? And we're going to go into gratitude later, an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably have many moments where you get these kids to listen to you, right? And that holds so much power because you're just at the beginning too. And later on, as you progress, you're going to be changing a lot of lives, bro.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
I mean, we all had that coach that we looked up to a lot when we were a kid that made that huge
Yeah.
impact. And we still look back and we're like, man, that was my favorite coach ever. I wonder what he's up to now.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the goal.
That's dope. Can you share any success stories or testimonials from athletes who have trained at Spotlight?
Yeah, 100%. So I had one kid, his name was, I won't mention his name just in case, but he's playing prep school at WCPA, I believe it's called. He trained with us for 1 year, or he did one of our camps. And then one of my like day one supporters, one of the kids that we worked with from the very beginning of Spotlight, did most of our camps whenever he was around. He's graduating school this year. He's going to play basketball at Concordia next year. Some other kids, we've had a couple college commits too. You know, it's kind of that weird time right now where a lot of them don't quite know where they're going yet, but they know that they're going to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, it's kind of cool because, you know, when we first started it, like I mentioned, that group of 7 or 8 boys, they were all in 10th grade that year. So 2 years past that, now they're all graduating high school and they're like full-blown adults. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of full circle.
So quick.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So
this kid that you look back on, and this kid was just 2 years younger, but a lot can change within those years. Now it's like from 16 to 18, bro. Each year is so like it's so important to shape your mind, and the idols that you have, the people in your life that guide you, you remember them. Right?
yeah.
I still remember the teachers who went about the world and just saw the world and extended it to the students in a way where it was just so meaningful, purposeful, and they made you feel connected.
Yeah.
Right? And so now these kids are all grown up now, and they look back and go, oh man, Spotlight.
Yeah.
Right? And so one day when they're grown up, they're gonna relay it to like younger people too, and like, hey, I was in this group and it was very rewarding. And yeah,
100%. And I love that word you used too, purposeful, right? There's a purpose behind everything we do especially when we deal with kids, right? Trying to put them on the right path. I think purposeful is a huge word.
Yeah, because even for working out, it's really repetitive, right? It's just, okay, when you do your bench press, 1, 2, 8 to 12 reps, 4 sets, when you run, when you go, when you do the conditioning, when you shape up your diet. But when you have a reason for it, like what are you doing it for? Like your mom, your dad, yourself, your ambitions, you want to change the world.
Yeah.
And for majority of people that go into high level sports and that get into it, they go through doubt, insecurity. There's a lot of like just mental battles of, oh, am I gonna get there? Can I do this? But then there's people like you, the coaches, that tell them, hey, everything's gonna be okay. You know, you instill in them a message where each rep, no matter how painful, is for something.
Oh yeah.
Because if it's not for anything, without discipline, you give up at the slightest pain. Because like, man, basketball, like any sport, they're all painful, bro.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, it's all fun and you feel connected, but there are going to be those days where you don't want to train. There's going to be those days where the other players are kind of mean. You don't want to you don't want to deal with the negativity, and you just don't want to go to training.
100%.
But what gets you? How do you get there? And
no, you're exactly right, man. You're exactly right. It's about doing it on the days you don't want to do it, right?
What sets Shoot 360 apart from other basketball training facilities?
Yeah, 100%. So
let's talk about the difference between Spotlight and Shoot 360.
I think that's a great idea. It's quite a big difference. So Spotlight this year, we're kind of in a transition part of the company right now. So we're not going to do basketball this year or for the foreseeable future, right? Because now I'm over at Shoot 360 doing my thing over there. And the co-founder, Tyler, he is graduating with his personal training degree from Nate this year, or diploma from Nate this year. So he really wants to push towards personal training with Spotlight. So that's going to be one of our avenues, one of our streams. And then we're transitioning to volleyball as well. So with my friend Jonah, who plays at McEwen University, he's bringing on a lady who plays at U of A. Volleyball there, and we're going to do a volleyball camp this year, a few volleyball camps starting in July. So that's kind of what we're going with for Spotlight. And then when it comes to Shoot 360, Shoot 360 is one of the craziest things I've ever been a part of, man. Like, just an absolute dream come true.
Did you found Shoot 360
No,
as well?
definitely not. So the story behind Shoot 360 is it's a franchise, right? So there's about 40 locations in the United States, I want to say. And what it is it's the world's most advanced basketball training facility. Okay, so when you walk in, there's tech everywhere. There's screens up above the basket, so above the backboard, if you can imagine that. And on top of that, there's a camera, and then there's big 8 feet tall screens that are 10 feet wide. That you can pass to, that are showing your dribble moves and stuff. So what a Shoot 360 workout really is you walk into the building. And then you go and you spend an hour there. You're spending 30 minutes at our skills station, which is where that big, huge 8x10 screen is. Okay, and then there's a virtual coach that'll come up on the screen. It'll show you a dribble move for like stationary ball handling. You can choose whatever drill you want to do. That's just an option. Another option would be to do like a combo move. So say you do, 5 crossovers and then you pass it to the screen, right? And the camera is tracking that pass onto the screen.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's really, really different. It's tracking how accurate you are towards that target. So
Or you have to wear anything to track
no, it's just the camera
in the room, just reading all your movements.
Yeah, man, it's very, very different. The skills station is amazing. It kind of makes kind of that boring aspect of individual training where you're really just drilling out stationary ball handling, really trying to get your handle right. Kind of takes that and gamifies it a little bit, to the point where it doesn't become so boring and you're excited to get into the gym and do it. And it's nice too because it's super, super efficient, right? Your time throughout your entire workout, and when you're there, you are working hard. Like after 30 minutes at the skill station, you're already tired, and then you have to go do 30 minutes of shooting, where you're gonna be.
Is there like a data where because it is tracking something?
Oh yeah, yeah. So it all gets tracked. So it'll track at the skill station. It'll track how accurate your passes are with the cameras. So like I said, with that target that you're passing to, it'll track how close you are to the center. So like very, very pinpoint accurate is how our cameras kind of work.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the shooting station, that's what a lot of kids really love, is we have 5 of them at Shoot 360 right now, just like we have 5 skill stations in Sherwood Park. They're about the size of the key, and then they're kind of pie shaped. So the key, and then it'll kind of extend out the 3-point line a little bit. So you have a little bit more room at the top. And then you have an automatic rebounder, okay? And then you have the screen, and then you have the camera on top, okay? So whenever you shoot, it's tracking 3 metrics. So this is really, really cool. I love this. So it tracks your arc, so how high you shoot it, okay? So you can imagine like the angle that the ball enters through the rim. Tracks your depth, so that's how much power you put on the shot. So are you short or are you long, right? And then you're left or right, so how straight you shoot it, okay?
Some people, when they throw, right, sometimes they do a little twitch and it goes to the left, and if they just made it straight,
exactly,
right, it would have gone in. But wow, so it tracks all these things, and now you actually have a number. So when you're coaching these kids,
Mhm.
you're the coach
Yeah.
in there, you can tell them, hey, you're going too strong. Hey, go a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And go more to the left. Go more, do this with your wrist.
Yeah. No, exactly. You're
It's
100%
extremely
right.
helpful. Yeah.
It's game changing, honestly,
Yeah.
because we have the data that shows us exactly what each one of those metrics should be. So it's called the splash zone, is what we called it. So when your arc and your depth and your left to right are all in the splash zone, that's a made shot 98% of the time, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So if you build that muscle memory to get into that splash zone every single time you shoot, you're gonna be one of the best shooters in the world. 29 NBA teams actually use our technology. Right, so like I said before, there's gimmicky technology and there's good technology.
You weren't joking when you say this is the best basketball training facility in the world.
The world's most advanced training facility, 100%.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it's not just like, oh, some engineer, took the physics of basketball shooting and was like, this is exactly how it should be. It's tested from our database of over 200 million shots that show us exactly what it should be, right? And like I said, like Steph Curry, one of the best shooters in the world, is a student of Shoot 360.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's not just, it's definitely game changing in my opinion.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways does Shoot 360 foster a competitive yet supportive training environment?
Yeah, 100%. That's a great question. So, whenever an athlete comes into Shoot 360, like I said, we're timed, right? So you're there for an hour of efficient work. When we get into the shooting lane, I kind of already touched the skill station, but you're getting over 300 shots up, okay? Like in 30 minutes. Like that is a lot of shots. You'll never get that many shots.
Kids are probably really nervous too, eh? They're getting timed and getting everything tracked. So
there's a lot of stuff going on, right?
Accounting for.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And part of that, part of the competitive aspect is you are getting tracked, right? So a kid puts up a shot, he says that he's missing, and he's only hitting 20% of his shots. He might have thought that he was a great shooter before he walked into the facility, and then he looks up and he's like, oh damn, I gotta work on my game, right?
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, us coaches are there, we spend 5 to 10 minutes with an athlete whenever they come into the building. And we're there to make sure that they're still having fun. We're here to make sure they're pushing themselves in the right way, right? We're there to help make sure that their progression is going smoothly.
Cool.
And they're still in love with the game. When it comes to me personally with coaching, we can push an athlete as hard as we can. We can do all of this stuff. We can drill them out. But at the end of the day, if they're not in love with the sport, they're not going to want to do it anymore. So for me, it's always about keeping that athlete passionate about basketball and making sure they still love the game and still having fun.
So when you got a kid that goes in there and they're just not feeling it, they're kind of losing passion.
Yeah.
How do you go about that?
That's a great question. So a lot of it is, just bringing energy as a coach.
Yeah.
With those kind of kids, they might have just come from a tough day at school where, maybe they're not the most popular kid. They don't have a great home situation. But whenever they come to Shoot 360, I'm there as their biggest cheerleader, as their biggest supporter, to make sure that they're having a great time, even if they're not making any shots, right? So it's more than just basketball when it comes to a facility that we're open, 7 days a week. It's a family, just like Spotlight, and we want to make sure that, all the kids that come through there know that Shoot 360 is a safe space for them, and they enjoy coming back, right?
That's awesome. I mean, I've had people that the encouragement, I don't ever forget it. Where those days where you're tested and it's just you didn't get a good grade at school, didn't get enough sleep, maybe you had a fight with your dad, parents don't feel like they understand you, maybe there's a lot of self-doubt.
Oh yeah.
But then when that person comes into your life and they're going, hey, you can do it, it propels you to so many heights that you never knew you were capable of. And I did some reflecting back like a couple of weeks back, and I was at Galaxyland with my baby brother, and he turned 6 and we celebrated there, and we kept telling him, hey, you go in the little horsey merry-go-round. Yeah. And he was so scared at first, but then that little push, right? Eventually he went on it, and it was just progressive overload where
and he loved
it. Encouragement.
Yeah.
And I reflected on and my parents did the same thing. what if there aren't people like that to encourage us, right?
Right.
Some of these kids need that.
Oh,
because
100%.
in certain home lives, maybe that's not fostered,
Mhm.
right? And they like Shoot 360 provides a compassion to these kids and a way of just feeling grounded and feeling at home. Right?
Yeah.
So I bet you lots of the kids probably look forward to it, to have like a hype man.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, especially somebody who comes from the sport just like they
Yeah.
did. And like I kind of mentioned, you know, has made it up to the point where a lot of them are aspiring to get to, you know, I think it means a lot to these kids to see, you know, people like me or, you know, other coaches who have just as much, you know, experience or even more, come up to them and cheer them on and make sure that they know they're doing a good job, right?
Yeah. You tell them, hey, you can do it. Just keep going. Just arch your back a little bit. Do this one. I don't know anything about basketball, but
oh, you're nailing it, man.
Yeah,
that's 100%.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
But you know, I can talk the talk, but I can't walk. How does Shoot 360 cater to the needs of both amateur and professional basketball players? Because you mentioned there are kids there that look up to the NBA, and then there are also kids there just to have fun, improve their recreational playing style.
That's a great question because Shoot 360 does a really, really good job with anybody who wants to play basketball in their facility.
Yeah.
Because we have like over 300 plus drills in our database that are all structured differently for different skill levels. So there's 4 different skill levels, right? If you're just starting out, you can do some of our rookie drills that'll just kind of get you, you know, those basics, right? Of, you know, maybe we're just working on our right hand pounds, or maybe we're not even dribbling yet and we're just spinning that ball around our back or something, right? And then there's also like legitimate just games that you can play where you're just like hitting a target at that screen, or there's even one called bug squash where you're just there's bugs that come up on the screen and you just
smack them with the
it's honestly so satisfying. Some days if I'm having a bad day, I'll just go bug squash, take that bug, you know.
Awesome.
It's great. But yeah, and so even in the States, like we're pretty new, but we had some people come up from Portland that trained us. I remember one of the guys mentioned that there was a brother and a sister that was at one of their facilities, and the brother was like a basketball guy. Like he loved basketball, wanted to get better. That's all he ever talked about was basketball. And then the sister was actually a dancer, but she came whenever her brother was there, had a membership, you know, came two times a week, and still loved it because she just like got to play the games, right? And got to learn how to love basketball from just like having fun with it.
Mm-hmm. You got this brother who wants to be a professional, and then the sister who's just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
And they both go into your facility, and they still take something away from it.
100%.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah. It's really for everybody, man. It's great.
A sport brings people together, and it builds confidence, and it builds connection, and it's going back to purpose. It's more than just the sport, right? You're there to be connected to others, 100%. To improve, and to go about life where, hey, every day there's something I can do, whether it be improving the way I shoot, whether it be improving my dribbling, whether it be the mindset with sports.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely, man. You nailed it.
Yeah. Can you describe the variety of training programs, or you already mentioned describe this, but
yeah, no worries, man. I can go into more depth a little bit. Like we also have like super advanced drills that can be super customized to where, you know, maybe if we're shooting, we're getting like 100 reps of this one drill where we're just going back and forth and back and forth. Like I know last week we had Brody Clark in. I wasn't there. I didn't get to meet him yet, but I'm going to meet him in a couple of days. And he got over 400 shots in 30 minutes, and he just loved it. He just fell in love with Shoot 360, and he's like I want to say he's like 26 years old, been playing pro for 2 years, played at U of A, like one of the best players to ever play at U of A, and he loves Shoot 360 just as much as a young kid would love it, right? So it's for everybody.
That's awesome. So Spotlight, you guys are expanding to different facets, not just basketball, but volleyball. personal training.
Yeah.
And then that's run with Tyler and Jonah.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna be the basketball guy.
I'll still be the basketball guy at Spotlight if we do that in the future. But right now we're kind of putting that on pause. Right now with Spotlight, I'm more so handling the back end, kind of management side of it, where I'll do a lot of the marketing. I'll do all the organizing, right? And yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And then how do you balance Spotlight and Shoot 360?
That's a great question. So I'm still kind of trying to figure that out because, Spotlight camps aren't going to start until July. So I have some time. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is going to be on the head coach of the volleyball camps, so Jonah, to make the decisions, and then I'll kind of check in with them, make sure that they're on the right path, right? Because at the end of the day, Spotlight is my baby. I want to make sure that it's going smoothly, right? It's growing up correctly. But I have a lot of trust in Jonah. Jonah's a great volleyball player, very competitive guy, and he's been coaching for a while, so full confidence in him, for sure.
That's awesome. Because you can't go about it alone. Hey, people that say they're self-made are such big liars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like when I hear that, like other these people that are millionaires or these actors that have made it, even athletic people that have made it, and they go, "Oh, I'm self-made." No, you're not.
No, you're not. Man. You're lying.
Even as a kid, your mom raised you, or if you're an orphan, there were still people that brought their guardianship together.
Oh yeah.
And turned you into this person that is capable of being athletic, being resilient, and being disciplined despite of the adverse conditions that you're presented with. Right? So like with you extending that responsibility to Jonah and trusting him, because you did say Spotlight's your baby.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have I can relate to that because this podcast, even like running for me, just when you've created something like a foundation, and you relay the responsibility to other people, it's kind of like you trust them, man. And this is like a big part of you.
Oh yeah.
Right. So extending that responsibility, knowing that you can't do everything alone, is such a big help, such a big just boost in all over overall productivity.
100%. And I think a lot of it is about, setting really clear expectations with that person that you're branching out with, just being very transparent with them, saying, if I'm going to invest my time, maybe even my money into this, I need to make sure that you're just as committed, if not more committed than I am at this point, right? And so far Jonah's done a really good job of that. He's been, on me trying to get, logos made, trying to get our social media going, and I'm like, I'm super busy right now, but I'm working on it. So that's all coming soon. But yeah, I'm very excited to see how he does. Right.
And I met Jonah for the first, actually you and Jonah.
Yeah, you met the whole
I've
crew,
seen
man.
you guys all around ABJ.
Yeah.
But when you guys talked about Spotlight, I can just tell passion, man, because it's just the way you guys talked about the training and the way you can see the future with it. And I looked over the page too, and you guys are driven. And how do you find someone with the same values as you that align? Because you could find someone, you could just find anyone, right? You have a bunch of friends. Why did you choose Jonah? Right? Tyler?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great question, man. I've been so fortunate throughout my entire life to have such a great group of guys who have been like brothers to me since day one. We've all always been competitive with each other, which, and super, super loving towards each other.
That bolsters
both.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And that's what pushes us to get better. Like Dave works into that as well. I grew up with Dave. We all grew up together. So at the end of the day, like when we all graduated high school, there was 4 or 5 of us that went on to play like collegiate level sports, right? And that's huge. I feel like that doesn't happen very often. And it's all just that brotherhood, right? Just knowing exactly where we are, being a little competitive, being like, oh, Tyler's playing pro down east. Man, I got to get on my game so I can play college ball, right? Show him up a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
And there's that fine line too where it's competitive, but it's loving, right?
Oh yeah.
Because there are people that are very competitive, and they want you to fall because they want it so badly.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to be competitive with the boys,
Mm-hmm.
but also appreciate and help them go up and look at that achievement as that of your own achievement as well. Because if they succeed, they're learning something, and when you ask them certain things how they do it,
Mm-hmm.
they can relay that information to you. And when you succeed at something, it's not just about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about sports. It could be about even finance. It could be about relationships.
Yeah.
And if you keep that all to yourself, you're losing so much valuable information.
Oh, 100%.
That's kind of, I learned that from Mr. Beast out of all people. He had this clip where, like, imagine a person that works 12-hour days.
Yeah.
They fail, they learn something, they fail, they learn something. And then he goes, but imagine a different reality where there's 4 of your boys or more, or more than just one, where both of you are working, or all of you are working 12-hour days. You guys fail, and then you try again. And then when you fail, you relay that information to your boys. And then when that person fails, they relay that information. So instead of a linear progression, it's exponential.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because Spotlight wouldn't be where it is right now if it wasn't for the support that your team has given you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's that constant, hey, this is great. You found something. Because I experienced that with podcasting too, where the good job, I appreciate this, hey, you're doing this right. It's so powerful. And then the constructive criticism as well, where it's, you're not doing this right. Okay. And you got to take it well, bro. Because it hurts, right? When it's your baby.
Yeah, and you're like, man, I put so much into this.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like, oh, man, I really got to, and it's good to take that feedback and go, okay, this is.
Okay, maybe you are right.
Yeah, you are right. I can improve on this.
Yeah. I think you're totally right about that, man. And like I said, I'm super, super lucky to have guys that are with me that, I can ask them, and then the next day they're like, yeah, let's get it. And that's their passion, right? That's what happened with Tyler.
And they're driven.
Exactly. Yeah. Where I was like, Tyler, I want to do this. Do you want to do it with me? And he was like, hell yeah, man. I'm there for you. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then Jonah hit me up one day and he was like, I'm kind of interested in running volleyball camps this summer. Like, can you take me through how you did it? And I was like, man, why don't you just do it with me? We'll do it together. Boom. Right? And we're in it.
That's awesome. Now, if they didn't put in that effort, right? If you didn't put in that effort, then it would have never amalgamated to this. And then there's still more. Every day, there's still more to improve.
Yeah.
Up until you look back and you go, wow, look how far it's come. Right?
Oh, 100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
Let's talk about coaching versus playing.
Yeah.
100%. How does the transition from being a player, because you mentioned you played at Concordia for a couple years, to becoming a coach impact one's perspective on the game of basketball?
Yeah, it's actually really, really interesting making that transition really, really quick back to back.
I'm really curious, man.
Yeah, it's interesting because you get into the gym with these kids on the other side of it, and coming straight from playing, when you see these young kids kind of slacking off sometimes, you're like, man, you need to get on it, because it's really hard not to, I'll say this, it's really hard to look at a kid in a gym, slacking off and not go like, man, when I was your age, I was doing this, and relating back.
I feel that with my brother all the time.
Exactly, right? It's really hard not to, but at the end of the day, everybody's journey is different. Everybody has a different interest in sport, right? So you just kind of have to, play the cards you're dealt when it comes to coaching, and just really making sure that you're doing the right things for that individual athlete, because there is certain athletes that you can really push because they really want it, but then there's other athletes who maybe they're happy to just play high school ball and then be done with it, and that is 100% fine too, right? It's a lot different. It also kind of puts a lot in perspective, right? Because every once in a while, it doesn't happen all the time, I'll be out of practice, coaching these kids, and I'll kind of get almost a little bit emotional, being like, man, I really wish I could still do this, because these kids are awesome.
Yeah.
And I miss that brotherhood of being on a team. I miss that grind. And I just feel like I would be ready for it now. But, at the end of the day, I'm on the other side of it now, and I can help those kids get to where, I want it to be.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah. You mentioned that it's so hard for you not to just tell these kids to do this because you've gone through it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have to go through it to learn about it their own way. Because I noticed that with my brother, where he's making the same mistakes I went through, but he's a different personality, different like, behavioral coping mechanisms, and different just habits. And yeah, it's so hard to just tell them, hey, do this. You have to really implement certain ways of going about it. Right? It's so complex, coaching, where if you just show them a certain way of doing a tactic, you end up just going about it in your own way, and you don't think about how they want to do it. But as soon as you do go with how they work and cater it to the way they will grow and flourish in the sport, I think that's the way to go about it.
100%. And it's kind of hard to find that balance with certain athletes, right? Because we all just want to work with the best athletes that are super, super driven, will do anything that you say. At the end of the day, that's 1% of athletes, right? Even less. So it's about how you handle, like you said, the majority of athletes who, have different coping mechanisms, learn differently, right? Have different goals, right? How are we with them? That's what really makes the big difference.
And then you mentioned you miss playing. Why don't you just go back?
I wish I could, man, but at the end of the day, my story is kind of funny. So when I was in 12th grade, I dislocated my shoulder, so I tore my labrum. I got it repaired right after my 12th grade year. Recovered, made a great recovery, was back before the first season at Concordia. Made it through that first year. It was COVID year. We didn't play. And then the next year, things were going good up until Christmas. And then it came out again in a game that didn't matter. It was an exhibition game. And it was just heartbreaking. Honestly, I remember walking out of that. I was at Saville. And I remember, actually getting wheeled out because it's hard to walk for me, at least, when my shoulder's out. And I was like, I was telling my coach, I'm like, man, I'm done. Like, I can't do this again. Like, this is it. This is my career. I'm done. And, I could have gone back. I could have tried, but my shoulder's been out 5 times since then. It's just not worth it to me anymore to, go and try and play, and then, something goes wrong, and then I'm out for another 2 weeks, and I've lost all my progression in the gym. I have to rehab my shoulder again. I can't write. At the end of the day, it's just not worth it to me. Maybe, who knows? Maybe one day I'll try and make the big comeback if I get another surgery. But it's just not my priority right now, to be honest.
Yeah, dude, that's tough. You probably experience a lot of grief too, because this is such a big part of your life, and not being able to participate in something you love so much, because you've probably gone through the mental battles of the pros and the cons, and you're weighing it every day, leading up to you finally making the decision of, okay, I'm just going to focus on coaching. Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest mental battles of my life was just recovering from that first surgery. That's really, really hard to come back. Your shoulder's sliced up. You're in a sling for, a couple months, a month and a half. That one wasn't too long, but I was 18, I was young. I'm still young, but it was just a lot for me because that was right in the middle of COVID too. So there wasn't really a lot going on. So I was kind of, in my basement playing video games just with my shoulder in a sling. And I'm like, man, this sucks. But yeah, it kind of sucks. It was very sudden for me. I had my whole degree planned around playing basketball for 5 years. And then all of a sudden, halfway through year 2, like, I'm done. And then everything's turned upside down. And I'm like, what the hell do I do now?
What do I do? What's plan B? I don't have a plan B.
I don't have a plan B. That's exactly it.
But at the same time, though, if that didn't happen to you, Spotlight wouldn't have been birthed.
Spotlight wouldn't have been birthed. I wouldn't have had this opportunity with Shoot 360. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't be doing as well as I am in school because I wasn't taking school as seriously as I am now when I was playing ball. but yeah, it matured me very, very quick, I'd say. Like I got a lot of maturity out of it, a lot of growth, personal growth out of recovering from that, and kind of coping with it, and moving on from that point in my life and just moving forward. So yeah,
it's beautiful, the resiliency though, because I'd say in your life one of the worst things to ever happen to you ended up being one of the best things. Okay?
Yeah, you're bang on with that. It's something that I look back at and I can actually genuinely be grateful about it now.
That's why I tell a lot of people, sure, it may be an exit, but it may also be an entrance.
Yeah, one door closes, another one opens, right?
There we go. What unique challenges do former players face when transitioning into coaching roles? And then as your personal experience.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So I'd say, like I kind of said before, it's really putting that competitive side of you aside, especially coming from somebody who might have been just at the height of their game, in a super competitive environment, kind of backing it up and making sure that we're back to the basics of basketball and not getting frustrated with the athletes when they don't give it their all every single time, right? Because at the end of the day, we can yell at an athlete or scream at an athlete, tell them exactly what they need to do. But is that really going to help them? No, right? Like, it's more than basketball. It's more about getting the most out of the athlete in that specific time or that specific day. It's about, building the person behind the athlete.
Right? How do coaching styles vary among different basketball coaches, and how do they impact player developments? Because it's not just you when you are coaching, eh?
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm very much somebody who loves the personal, individual skills training aspect of coaching. There's some coaches that are really, really good at team coaching. They understand the systems, they understand basketball, but maybe they don't understand how to, read a specific defender if he's guarding you a specific way. So, like I kind of said before, it's all about kind of finding your niche, what you understand the best in the game. And then finding somebody who can coach alongside you that understands the opposite really well. And that's where you have that kind of team impact where, I can really, really focus on personal development, individual development of these kids. If, Advin, if you're my assistant coach or head coach, if you can really focus on the systems and our defense and what we're actually going to run, right? And that's, I think, where the best coaching comes out of.
You funnel certain expertise to people that are good at certain things, and you recognize the weaknesses and you're honest to it so that you can communicate with the coaches and find, okay, you work on the defense, you work on the offense, you work on this, you work on that, and that, did I kind of pick that up right?
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's the same as any kind of job, right?
Yeah.
You've got your head of a department, you've got head of another department, we work together and then we make this great product, right? If one side's weak, the product's only as good as that weaker side.
Yeah. And the person can't do design and they can't do marketing and advertising and run PR.
Exactly.
It's just impossible.
Because then it's going to bring the quality of all of them down.
Yeah.
Why can't we just have you focus on one or two things, make them the best that they can be, and then trust somebody else?
Yeah. I don't fear the man who knows 1,000 kicks. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 1,000 times. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's a good one.
What are some key differences in mindset and approach between coaching and playing basketball? Because when I'm in a game, whether it be video games, whether it be just, I never really played sports, but I do marathon running.
Oh, yeah.
But when I'm engaging in the activity, there's just different muscles working, a different mindset to it where it's me, I don't quite see my mistakes as well. But when you're in third person and when you're a coach, you could see just, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you, what is the approach to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's all about kind of getting past that ego, and just helping an athlete you know, in a gentle and respectful way, realize that they're not perfect and we still have things to work on. And there's actually a lot of beauty in the fact that we still have work to do, right? Because if we're already this good, right, and we still have work to do, how much better can we get? You know, if everybody was perfect, I would say this, if everybody was perfect, life would be so boring, right?
There'd be no point.
There'd be no point,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's all about, you know, helping an athlete get to where they want to go, even if they don't think that they need to put in as much work as they really do, right? Kind of getting past that a little bit.
When you were a player, you had that mindset of, okay, I need to succeed, I need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you're a coach, you want to see people succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Which one made you happier?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I'll tell you this. So I look back at when I was playing and I was like, man, I was not ready for the position that I was in. I didn't understand what it took.
Yeah.
I feel like now as a coach, seeing the other side of it, I would be so much more ready for it now because I know exactly what athletes do who are successful to get that success, right? So when it comes to that, honestly, I find a lot more fulfillment in coaching because, you know, it's kind of nice to see an athlete, for me at least, get to the point where, you know, I know I can beat him. I know I can still beat him, you know, at this point. And then, like, this kid that's going to Concordia next year, I'm like, this kid's better than me now. Like, there's no way. Like, he'd kill me. So, like, some people might see that as, you know, like, they might not like that because maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe they, whatever the reason is. But for me, it's like, that's the goal. I want you to be better than me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a coach, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want the student to surpass you.
100%.
And finding happiness and joy in that is so imperative to being a coach, because if you didn't have that, there's no point in being a coach.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
If you're putting the people down who you want to get better, there's really no point.
Exactly.
Is that common? Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I'd say most coaches are pretty good about it, right? We all have our past where we're like, we were super competitive and we believed that we were the best, but I say the best coaches are the ones who can put that behind you and realize that the goal is to make our athletes better than we were. It's kind of like, I see the same way with parenting too. Yeah. Like, you want your kid to be even more successful than you were.
True. Right?
And it's not a bad thing to see, you know, your kid get more successful than you one day.
Yeah, I mean, that's a healthy parent's mind.
Exactly.
Where you want your kid to have everything that you never had, and to be better at everything, and to go and to recognize the mistakes and help them adapt to the situation, and go about the world with positivity.
100%.
How can athletes cultivate a mindset of gratitude amidst the pressures and demands of competitive sports?
That's a fantastic question. And, you know, I kind of look at it this way. I saw this Instagram reel the other day. That's where all the best knowledge in the world comes from, is Instagram reels, as we all know.
Bro, if you cultivate the algorithm, man, you'll get some pretty good clips. Yeah,
that's true. This guy was kind of talking about, you know, being in those pressure moments and, you know, kind of how to eliminate being nervous and feeling that pressure a little bit. And it was about being grateful. Okay, so let's say, you know, I'm on the driveway and I'm just messing around as a kid, you know, I'm counting down. I'm like, oh my goodness, Jake Svenningsen down on the fast break. He's got 5 seconds left to shoot it. If he makes the shot, the Phoenix Suns win the championship or whatever. And then, you know, that's what you want one day, right? That's like the glorified aspect of sports, is getting into those pressure moments and performing, right? So whenever you're in that pressure moment, being grateful that you're actually in that position that you dreamed of when you were at home playing on that driveway, right? And realizing that that's, you know, where you've wanted to be, that can actually take you out of it and realize, wow, I'm just grateful that I made it this far. I'm grateful I'm in the game right now. I'm grateful that coach is trusting me right now. There's no reason for me to be nervous because, one day I'm going to look back at this moment and be like, wow, win or lose, that was a really cool moment.
Yeah.
Right?
You pray for things, and when they do come, we forget where we come from.
Exactly.
Like being in those pressure moments where you're tested, and to take a deep breath and to look back and go, look how far I have come.
Mm-hmm.
And whether I fail or win, even better if I win, this moment is what matters right now.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, the best is all we can really do.
Mm-hmm.
And going about that, whether it be 1 3-pointer and you win or lose,
Yeah.
and whether you make it or not, you tried your best.
100%.
And it's about feeling that moment with the gratitude that you are there, because not everybody gets that opportunity.
Exactly.
Like, whether it be in professional sports, whether it be just recreational sports, that's a gift.
Yeah.
And there's a beauty in that.
100%. And even if you're that kid that's not in the game at the end of the fourth quarter trying to win the game, even if you're on the bench, cheering on your teammates, there's two different ways you can handle it. You can be like, oh man, I must not be playing good. Like, coach didn't put me in at the end of the game. He doesn't trust me. Yeah. Or you can be so excited for your brothers out there on the court that we all collectively made it this far in the tournament, the season, whatever. And we can be so excited that we're in this gold medal game or we're in this bronze medal game, with an opportunity to, have a really nice moment, win or lose.
Mm-hmm. You're there with your brothers, and you've made it thus far. It's good to immerse yourself in the moments rather than think of what you don't have. Think of what you do have.
Exactly.
And that goes such a long way with life.
Yeah.
And we forget that too many times.
Yeah.
Like, I was stressed out with this coworker lately. It's just toxic guy, the classic textbook example.
100%.
Talks a bunch of shit. Like, it's not a cool guy.
We've all been there, yeah.
But then I forget, when I do come to work, there are all these people that are great. There's so many that give me love and support, encouragement, and good laughs. Because we place so much focus on that negativity, we forget that we are surrounded by light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great way to put it.
What are some examples of athletes seizing opportunities and turning them into success stories?
Man, that's a great question. Specific examples, that's kind of tough. But when it comes down to it, whenever we see an athlete who's, been consistently putting in that work, and I can relate it to one example. So there was this one kid that I was told about, who is a Shoot 360 member in the United States, famous kid amongst Shoot 360. His name's Mito. A lot of kids come through Shoot 360 because they didn't make, that junior high team that they wanted to, and they want to make it next year. Or maybe they didn't make that senior varsity team. They want to make it next year, right? He just kept working. He kept working, was at Shoot 360 every day, got his game up, got his percentages up, and then, he was super, super resilient. And now he went from not playing to being a starter at his high school team, right? Just because he kept consistent and understood what that hard work took, and or what kind of hard work it took to get to where he wanted to get. So, at the end of the day, that's not just a basketball or an athletic skill. That's a life skill. That's something huge that a lot of people, I think we all kind of learn it at some point in our life, whether we accept it or not, that it's going to take a lot of hard work to get where we want to go if we want to achieve our goals, right? So, yeah.
You had a kid in Shoot 360 who struggled in junior high basketball.
Yeah.
But he kept showing up every day. No matter how many times he failed, he got back up. And then now he's starting in high school.
Yeah, he's on his high school team starting. Yeah.
And it's just, and he's gonna keep going, right? And this is he's starting high school.
Still in high school, yeah.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that it extends more to life. where you're presented with a problem where you're not good at something.
Yeah.
And then you show up day after day, no matter if you're sad, if you're depressed, if you didn't get enough sleep, you show up in that court, you show up for that job, you show up. And that's having that consistency in your mindset.
Yeah.
Can take you to such great heights.
100%. It's just holding that belief of, okay, I'm gonna put in this work, and one day it's gonna pay off. It might be tomorrow, it might be 3 years from now, but holding that belief, that's what's really gonna get you far.
That's where when people ask me, "Oh, I'm not good at this. I should give up," I tell them, "Hey, like, you don't know whether tomorrow is gonna be your day, or maybe a year from now, the next hour. Why give up when you've come this far?" And that extends to life itself. Right? You want to give up your day? You don't want to put in the work today? Why? You've come this far. You've gone, and people forget that they've gone through worse. Like we often, a problem arises, and you forget that you've probably dealt with the same thing. It was just, and there's this person I heard say, "Your problem is the worst problem." And yeah, well, there are many problems out there.
Yeah.
The problems you have right now is the worst problem. It's you. Right? That's because that's what's in your head all the time.
Right.
That's the worst problem. And you can cater that to having actual good problems. And yeah, it's just
I think
a lot of
that's
good lessons.
Yeah, that speaks to being grateful a lot, 100%. Just like understanding, what kind of problems you have and how you can work towards them, because there's a lot of people in the world that have, problems that there's nothing that they can do about it.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they're sick. Maybe, they're in an unfortunate financial situation. Maybe they had a family member who passed, right? But, for those of us who are lucky enough to have problems that we can actually work towards and work towards a solution, right? We need to be grateful.
True. That effort-based solution. There's someone out there that would kill to be in our positions. I always think that, like, being a part of Spotlight, being a part of Shoot 360, playing for Concordia, that's someone's dream.
Oh, yeah.
Living, and we forget that. Like right now, being in a podcast, there's probably someone that goes, "I wish I was on one. I wish I had my own Spotify, YouTube channel." We forget it because we become accustomed to it. We take it for granted. When it can get taken away at any time.
Yeah.
That's why we got to revel in it. We got to stay grateful.
Yeah.
Because it's not a given. It can be taken away. And
exactly. I think it's just a mindset thing too, man. Like a lot of people, when they get sick of things, maybe they'll make a mental note like, "Oh, I have to go to work tomorrow and I have to, deal with these people," right? Just like how, this morning I could have been like, "Oh, I have to go do this podcast with Advin. I don't really know him that well. I'm kind of nervous," right? I've met him once in my life before. I don't really know what I'm doing. I've never been on a podcast before. But if you kind of change your mindset and just say, like I said when I walked in today, be like, "Oh, I'm just going to chat with my buddy Advin today. I'm gonna have some coffee."
You're living with confidence.
Exactly. We're gonna talk. We're gonna figure it out. As the same thing with my job right now. How I look at it is, I could be that guy who's like, "Oh, I have to go into work 5 hours. Tomorrow I'll deal with all these snotty kids," right? But I try my best to take a mental note and be like, "Man, I get to go play basketball with kids for 5 hours today.
Yeah.
That's a dream come true. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, no, I feel that I woke up at 5 a.m. today. I set up the podcast, and before I go to work, it's all set up now so that when I do come home, we can just get to it. And then sometimes I complain, "Oh, I have to show up at work for 8 hours, and I have to, why am I doing this? It's so much work for the podcast." I have to prepare the questions, have to reach out to people. And it's not all enjoyable all the time.
Definitely not.
But when it is enjoyable, when you are in that moment where it's just in the glory, it's all worth it, man.
Oh yeah.
Those days where you're just driving to work and you're like, man, I don't want to deal with this. And then you shift your mindset and go, I get to,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
It's so worth it in the end.
Mhm.
And going back to gratitude, even the pressure amidst it, it's an opportunity to grow because you do not grow in comfort.
Exactly.
The times where you truly learn is when you got cortisol flowing through your veins, you're stressed out, you don't know, you're crunched for time.
Mhm.
And then the next time that happens, it's a breeze because you've gone through it.
You know you're ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know you can do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
In what ways does gratitude contribute to mental resilience and overall well-being in sports?
It's a great question. So, you see a lot of players in the media, especially in the NBA right now. It's the playoffs right now. It's stressful time.
Mm-hmm.
People who are doing the best in the NBA playoffs right now
Mm-hmm.
are those players who are giving credit to the other team in the NHL too, giving credit to the other team because they played well, right? Are grateful just to be in the position that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these players and these teams that, blame referees for, mistakes that their team made or blame their teammates, right? And aren't grateful for the position that they're already in. That's where they tend to fail, right? So it's all about keeping that positive mindset. That's what keeps you going, right?
The players that look at that loss point or the other team scoring on them and goes, "Oh man, they're cheating. Oh man, they're doing something. They're taking away from me. They're not playing fairly." Those usually are the people who do not progress as quick as the people that view that situation and go, okay, how can I improve? I'm thankful for this moment because it's presented me with a tool to augment my play style. And okay, sure, maybe they might not be playing fair, and maybe the referee is favoring the team a little bit. How can I use this to my advantage? And that, so during the times where it is fair, during the times where it is the referee maybe on your side, how easy would that be for you, right?
Exactly.
Your chances of winning is just proliferated.
Yeah, 100%. Like, even look back to, I know you're not a basketball guy, but you look back to Michael Jordan in like late 80s, early 90s when he was playing against these really tough Detroit Pistons teams that would just beat him up every single time he made it that far in the playoffs. Like, this was before Michael Jordan started winning his championships, right? He was like, damn, these refs aren't calling anything. Like, they're so rough. He could have easily just been like, oh, I'm never going to beat these guys because the refs don't call any fouls in my favor, right? And the game adjusted. I understand that. But, there was one season in particular where Michael Jordan really realized that he needed to get in the gym, bulk up, get stronger so that he can actually play against these big, tough dudes who are pushing him around, right? And that was when he finally started to win, right? So it's all about just taking accountability, right? And being, grateful that you're in a great position already and understanding what it takes to even get to that next level.
Yeah. And with high performers like Michael Jordan, it never stops. The constant improvement, it's 24/7, right? How can I find ways, whether it be my diet, whether it be the mental conditioning, the sleep, the interactions that I have in the day-to-day, the habits, it's to get to a level, you have to that level of success, you can't stop. You can't stop. You got to keep going, right?
Yeah.
And how can athletes balance ambition and drive with a sense of gratitude for their journey and accomplishments?
Yeah, that's a really good question too, man. So, athletes with really, really high ambition can kind of go two ways, right? I've played with teammates who are really, really good that want to win, but when things aren't going the team's way or things aren't going their way, they get really defensive, right? And they tend to kind of, like we kind of said, blame others sometimes, maybe don't take full accountability, or, just get really, really, short triggered, or like they have a hair trigger when it comes to issues in practice, that kind of thing. And I think that the difference between players with high ambition that are successful and players with high ambition that are unsuccessful is taking the time to explain to their teammates or to their coach, having those conversations about what's actually going wrong and what they're seeing. Because if you're that high ambitious player who's been playing for a long time, has been putting in that work, you can say with your chest, like, you know what you're doing, right? But that player who might not be as experienced as you is looking up to you a little bit. So, when you're just barking down at him, yelling at him, telling him what he needs to do, sometimes that doesn't go as well. But if we kind of take that time, off the court or during practice to really explain, okay, this is what went wrong. This is what I need you to do next time, right? That's what lifts everybody up. At the end of the day, we talked a little bit earlier about the product is only as good as your weakest link, right? If everybody's lifting each other up, the ceiling, isn't there. We can get as high as we can get, right?
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Right, exactly.
You put more onto the water, all the boats go up. And if you have someone who's just tearing boats, shooting them down and making them sink, sure, you may be rising because you're the only one there and everybody's drowning.
Yeah.
Well, it's not exponential. You're just tearing people down for you to get better. And in a team, you need everyone to rise with you. And you need that mental resilience of going, hey, everybody in the team deserves something.
Yeah.
According to their own values and ambition. And you need to understand that and cultivate an atmosphere where everybody is winning.
Yeah.
And just because there are athletes too where they're very ambitious. It's not even just athletes, like people, very ambitious, and it takes away from the moment because they're so focused on the long-term prospects, the podium, the trophy. They forget the journey.
Yeah.
But the journey is 99% of it.
Exactly. It's like, okay, you're on this journey, you get to the end. What happens at the end? What's your purpose after the end?
Yeah.
Right? Like, do we find something else? Really, you just got to slow down a little bit, kind of understand where you're at and be present. Talked about a lot about being grateful today. So it's about understanding the moments, being in the moments.
Yeah. And to add on to that, the 1% of receiving that trophy, of reveling in that glory, that's just such a small percentage compared to the journey. And sure, let's say you do win. You were that negative person that put everyone down and screamed, and you had mentioned you had been played with players or coached people that were short, and when things went wrong, they couldn't control their emotions. They said certain things. That's not the way. Like, if someone is barking at you, you're not going to improve. You're not going to listen.
Exactly.
And so, okay, let's say that does work, and your team does win. You get that trophy. Nobody's gonna want to be your friend after. And what was that trophy for exactly? Was it for your own ego? Is it for your own ambition? And when you're at the top of that mountain and it's just you, what's the point?
That's a very good way to look at it.
It's lonely. And if you're fine with that, sure, put everyone down. And maybe a team sport's not for you. Maybe you should go into badminton, single badminton.
Yeah, I don't know. Something like that.
Some solo sport. Right? Boxing.
Boxing, sure, that's a good one.
But yeah, you kind of, I don't think that's ideal though for basketball though, where you prioritize your own self, right? Because you end up pushing people down, and when you're pushing people down, you're only as good as the weakest link.
I think that's something that, coaches need to do better and really, really look at when we're dealing with young athletes, is seeing how they communicate with each other. Because there was a lot of times when I was growing up, I was a good player growing up, right? I made it to university, but there was a lot of times where, I was in training groups or I was in teams with certain players, and they made me not want to go back the next day because, I knew I was going to get yelled at if I screwed up. And it's like, how am I supposed to learn if every time I screw up, you're saying, crazy things to me? Yeah,
like I've had, even at work, I've had people ask, what are you doing? What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm trying, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Like, very just rhetorical, just dismissive,
sarcastic,
just putting you down, sarcastic. And it's like, then you go about the training the next day, work the next day, and you don't want to be there because there's the tension. And not, instead of focusing on the sport, on your playing ability, on your work ability, your mind is on if this person's gonna judge you.
Yeah.
And dude, that still happens to me to this day.
Oh,
Eh?
100%.
Like even in like some people at the gym where it's like they're a bit judgy, or at work.
Yeah.
I have that coworkers out to get me. It takes away from my peace of mind. And I know it's just you shouldn't really care about those people because they don't really matter.
Yeah.
They're not long term. But it's still that tension.
Yeah.
Right? And I do a lot of meditation work. I do a lot of just improving the mindset. But yeah, that's not a way to go about the team.
Yeah, definitely not, man. It's a big one.
Can you share personal experiences or anecdotes where being opportunistic and grateful intersected in your athletic career or that of others?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to being opportunistic, that's a word that I love, on and off the court. It's all about being present, right, when you're opportunistic. So, say you're driving to work one day and you notice this, I don't know, say you notice a red Range Rover and you're like, wow, I've never seen a red Range Rover before. Like, that's crazy. I guarantee you the next 2 or 3 days that you drive around, you're going to see like 10 red Range Rovers, right? Because you're just looking for them now. If you just stay open and look like you're looking for opportunities, right? They're going to present themselves. That's what happened with me in Spotlight, right? If I remained super closed off to basketball and was like, man, I love basketball, but basketball doesn't love me, I'm out of this, I'm going to focus on something else, I would have never been doing this business with 3 or 4 of my best friends, connecting with them and making a difference in the community, right? So being opportunistic and grateful at the same time, that's where you really, really flourish and you find where you can make the most impact, and that's where you find success, right? Finding that opportunity, being grateful for it, not taking it for granted, like we mentioned, and then just running with it, man. Just staying confident.
You had mentioned that lens of that red Range Rover, and I thought of that Range Rover as an opportunity, right? Spray painted on the front.
Yeah.
And you can look for a green Honda.
Yeah.
Right, or a black Honda, and on it could be negativity. When you have a lens and you look for opportunity, you will find it.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna find it. But if you have a lens of negativity where you're looking for the bad in someone, you're looking for the mistakes, you're waiting for them to hurt you, you're waiting for that boss to call you out on you doing badly on your performance.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
100%.
You look for certain things and they come up because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when you do, it's the hardest feat to change your mindset, right? But when you go about the world, you actually change the way you view it. You unlock something from within and you realize that anything is possible. And when you just look for positivity, when you're thankful for being alive, when you look for, instead of focusing so much on what didn't happen, focused on what did happen and how can you improve upon that.
Yeah, I think you're bang on with that, man.
Yeah, bro, just that's pretty much everything.
Yeah.
It's
great.
Thank you so much, bro.
Of
for
course.
coming on, man. This is great. This is fun.
It was very fun. I'm glad I could make it. I'm glad you invited me on for sure, man. Had a good time.
Is there a message you'd like to say to young athletes?
Man, just pursue your passion, get that work in every single day. And like I said earlier, always find that fun in whatever you do, whether it's, your sport,
that passion,
your relationship, right? Your work. Always, keep that passion at the forefront, because when you lose that, that's when life gets boring and stressful.
True. You gotta wake up every day and be hungry for something. And also be at peace and know that at the end of the day, you do the best that you can. And yeah, everyone, that's Jake Sven.
Mhm.
Sorry, I need to pronounce the whole thing.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Svenningsen.
Svenningsen.
Yeah, that's bingo.
Jake Svenningsen.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, this is just the beginning, man. We're already there's a lot of opportunity out there, and as always, to everyone, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Do not lose hope. Keep going, and keep it long term. Peace.